Water fluoridation, the complete story of corporate capture and mass poisoning. Imagine this. A multi-billion-dollar company faces hundreds of lawsuits for poisoning farmland and livestock with its industrial waste. But rather than pay for the damage or invest in pollution control, this company devises a plan to convince the American public that this toxic waste is actually good for you. Through fraud, propaganda, and pulling strings at the highest levels of government, they not only avoid legal liability, but secure taxpayer funding to dump their hazardous waste into the water supplies of hundreds of millions of people. This is not fiction. It is the shocking, true story of water fluoridation in the United States. Our story begins in the 1930s, when the Aluminum Company of America, ALCOA, was looking at massive financial losses. ALCOA's biggest manufacturing plants were releasing hydrogen fluoride gas and other fluoride contamination that poisoned crops and cattle across the country. By the 1950s, just in the state of Tennessee, 157 farmers had filed $2.8 million in damage claims against the company, which is over $30 million in today's value. Many more lawsuits were coming. But ALCOA had a different solution than stopping the pollution. They began funding research at institutes linked to the company, like the Mellon Institute in Pittsburgh. A Mellon Institute scientist named Gerald Cox was the first to propose adding fluoride to public water supplies. At the same time, the ALCOA-funded Kettering Laboratory began publishing studies claiming that fluoride was safe and healthy. This was propaganda disguised as science. The big breakthrough for ALCOA came in 1945 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when the city became the first in the world to artificially fluoridate its water supply. This was supposed to be a rigorous 15-year scientific study, from 1945 to 1960, comparing cavity rates in children between the fluoridated city of Grand Rapids and the non-fluoridated control city of Muskegon, Michigan. But the study was compromised. After just 6 years, Muskegon was fluoridated too, ruining the non-fluoridated control group experiment depended on. With no scientific validity, the study was set to be a failure, but promoters of fluoridation, rather than admit this, instead claimed it was unethical not fluoridate Muskegon. The fraudulent science was spun as a great success. Before the ruined study was even half over, a coordinated national fluoridation campaign went into high gear, reaching the highest levels of government. Key player was ALCOA's lead corporate attorney, Oscar R. Ewing, who had been earning what today would be $7 million a year defending ALCOA against fluoride pollution claims. In 1947, Ewing landed a powerful government job, head of the Federal Security Agency, in charge of the U.S. Public Health Service. From that position, Ewing was able to shape the entire nation's fluoridation policy. Ewing wasted no time. He hired the infamous public relations master Edward Bernays, the author of the book Propaganda, to devise a massive PR campaign promoting fluoridation. Bernays used techniques he had perfected to sell cigarettes to women and convince Americans to support World War I. He was a master of manipulating the public. Bernays and Ewing together orchestrated the endorsement of fluoridation by the American Dental Association, the American Medical Association, and a group most Americans had never heard of before, the American Water Works Association. With the backing of these professional organizations, fluoridation took off across the country. The legal liability ALCOA faced for its fluoride pollution had turned into a profiteering opportunity. Between 1957 and 1968, ALCOA sold sodium fluoride to cities across the country, literally selling the environmental toxin it had been sued for and providing the chemicals for water fluoridation. The company was making money by taking the fluoride waste that had damaged farms and crops and selling it as an additive for drinking water. Selling sodium fluoride to cities was only the beginning. Other companies with fluoride problems saw an even bigger opportunity: the phosphate mining industry. Phosphate fertilizer plants in Florida and Louisiana also generate fluoride waste in the form of a liquid called hydrofluorosilicic acid. This acid was expensive to dispose of safely, but phosphate companies realized that cities would buy it from them as a fluoridation chemical that was cheaper than the sodium fluoride ALCOA was selling. The EPA later admitted in a 1983 letter that this was a way to get rid of an environmental pollutant by recovering byproduct fluosilicic acid. From fertilizer manufacturing, water and air pollution are minimized, and water authorities have a low-cost source of fluoride available to them. In other words, do not control the pollution, just put it in everyone's drinking water. Ever since the phosphate industry cornered the market in the late 1960s, the main fluoridation chemical used in the United States has been hydrofluorosilicic acid. Phosphate industry sells 200,000 tons of it every year, serving over 200 million Americans. And what are the contaminants in this hydrofluorosilicic acid? In 2015, the EPP fines phosphate giant Mosaic Fertilizer $2 billion for failing to properly treat its hydrofluorosilicic acid, which the EPA described as hazardous waste containing arsenic, lead, and other toxins. But cities across the country keep adding hydrofluorosilicic acid to water. For 75 years, from 1950 to 2025, federal agencies recommended and supported water fluoridation. The government ignored the incestuous corporate relationships and fraudulent science behind fluoridation policy. That is, until very recently. In August of 2024, a bombshell government report found substantial evidence linking fluoridated water to lowered IQ in children. A month later, a federal court ordered the EPA to tighten its fluoride regulations, calling it an unreasonable risk to children at levels found in fluoridated water. A wave of cities started voting to end fluoridation. Finally, in April 2025, the director of the Department of Health and Human Services ordered the 500 to stop recommending fluoridation, the first federal policy change in 75 years. For the first time since the 1950s, U.S. government agencies are no longer uniformly telling cities to fluoridate. The American Dental Association is still urging the government to support fluoridation, which is no surprise given that the ADA has taken tens of millions of dollars from pharmaceutical and dental equipment companies that profit from selling fluoride products. But the association is on the wrong side of history. Hundreds of cities have already stopped fluoridating, with more voting to end the practice every month. The scientific house of cards that fluoridation was built on has collapsed. The theory that ingesting fluoride builds strong teeth, called the systemic effect, has been discarded by modern dental research. It is now universally acknowledged that fluoride's effects are topical. It has to be applied directly to teeth, not swallowed. This explains why 97% of Western Europe has rejected water fluoridation, but has the same tooth decay rates as fluoridated countries. Water fluoridation is not a public health policy. It is the sordid tale of how some of the biggest polluters in America, the phosphate mining industry and the sugary food industry, diverted attention from their own environmental crimes by convincing the public that drinking an industrial waste product would magically prevent cavities. Along the way, these corporations gave millions to compromised researchers, professional associations, and regulators to keep the fluoride flowing. What is the lesson here? We have to be skeptical of public health practices that are promoted by the very industries that benefit from them financially. We have to follow the money and demand real scientific proof, not just endorsements from authoritative-sounding organizations. And we have to be willing to change our assumptions when new evidence comes to light. The 75-year experiment of water fluoridation is coming to an end in the United States, but the impacts will be with us for generations. Let us make sure we never repeat the same mistake again.